Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I'm the president, founder, and chief listening officer here at our network, where we have 29 live broadcasts each and every week. Our show today is The Wise Ones, and joining me is my friend and co-host, Mr. red.olaughlin. If you've joined us before, you know I hold Red in such high regard. He is a dear friend. He is someone who inspires me all the time. We've been working together for a while now, published 2 books and working on 7 + 1, 8 more books. So it's just been quite a joy, quite a ride. He's, in addition to being a co-host, he's one of our expert presenters on our Talking Heads platform. He's also a certified elevated listener, which means he listens at the highest level. And he's coming out with his own panel show on health and wellness. Stay tuned for that. Let's welcome red.olaughlin to the show. Hi, Red.
Howdy. Good to see you again, Dr. Jacalyn. Love your smile today, by the way, just really beaming out there.
Thank you, Red. That's because I'm so excited to see you and to meet our guest, Mr. Productivity. Tell our viewers and our listeners who are joining us for the first time a little bit about your background, Red. I know we could go on for a very long time because you've accomplished so much. You have so many degrees. You've written so many blogs, but tell us a little bit about who you are.
Okay, real briefly. 31 plus years in the military, retired 23 years ago. And I spent part of that time flying around the world. I was aviator for 16 years, been to 61 countries. My first love was chemistry, and long before I met my wife, which we just celebrated our 54th wedding anniversary just a couple of months ago. And let's see, nowadays I'm retired. I have 6 Saturdays and a Sunday every week. I research the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat a symptom, and you'll always be treating symptoms. That's what I research. That's what I write about. That's what I speak about. My niche in my area of health and wellness that I focus on the most is longevity, aging. What can we do about that? I've written books on that. I speak on it in today's Talking Head session immediately after the Wise Ones today. I'll be following up on the post-pandemic world. How do we get our health back? How do we maintain good health after this pandemic is over? And that's going to be a 6-part series. This will be part number 2. And then in the process of speaking around here in Houston area, I came across a guy named Mark Struczewski. And Mark is beyond being an expert in productivity. And it's probably one of the first time I can remember on the Wise Ones that we've had somebody who is this well versed in productivity. I know he has over 1,000 broadcasts, way over 1,000 broadcasts on podcasts. He's a master marketer in his field, and he's an overall good guy, and he's got a great haircut. So why don't we bring in Mark and Mr. Productivity?
Ta-da! Welcome, Mr. Productivity. What about that opening?
Oh, I feel really awesome, but I'm looking at the screen now and I'm like, which of these don't belong in terms of hairstyles? I mean, pick the one that doesn't look the same or whatever that old game we used to play. Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate your invite here.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. And as someone who has an extensive amount of experience in podcasting, what's that journey been like for you?
I cannot believe my podcast is over 5 years old, and I have to blame Gary Vaynerchuk because in the spring of 2017, I heard him say the future is voice and audio, and everyone needs to have a podcast. So I went to this website called google.com, and I typed in, how do you start a podcast? And I launched it July 7th, 2017, and I have like 1,148 episodes out now. I've met some of the coolest people, and I just love the platform. Over anything on social media, I love the podcasting platform.
Wow. So tell us what you love specifically about it. Because I think also with the audio portion, during the pandemic, the app Clubhouse really showed how powerful the voice is. So, what do you think is the difference between when we can see you versus when we can hear you?
Well, for me, it comes down to practicality. So with a video podcast, you can't watch when you're running, taking the dog for a walk on a plane or whatnot. I believe podcast truly should be audio. I think a true podcast is audio because you can download it to your device and listen anywhere. Plus, most people are listening with their earpods in, their AirPods or headphones, whatever you call them. And I can actually talk to them one-on-one. And one of the things I learned really early on in my podcast journey is never say y'all or you in the plural, because no one's having a podcast listening party. You're talking to one person at a time. So I try to remember that. I don't ever say listeners or viewers. I say viewer and listener. It's a little tweak, but it makes a difference because Sally out walking her Great Dane, I'm only talking to her. As far as she's concerned, no one else is listening to the conversation that I'm having with my guests. So I like I said, if I had to give up social media, I would do that. Just don't ask me to give up my podcast.
A man and his podcast cannot be separated. I love it. So we're talking today about productivity. And one thing I noticed was in an email reply you had sent back that you're checking emails at certain times of the day as opposed to checking them all throughout the day. And I think that's an area where we get hung up. We get hung up going into our phone. We go down this phone zombie road and we get completely distracted. So how did you decide that this is something that you really needed to put boundaries on when it comes to email? And I'm sure some other things that you've got systems for.
Well, what happens is you already said it, Dr. JACALYN, people are getting in their email or social media or texting, and they're losing sight of what they should be working on. I tell my clients and my listeners on the podcast or wherever they see me, you need to be working on needle moving activities 80% of your day. Is checking your email every 5-10 minutes. Is that needle moving? Is that moving you towards your goals? For most people, it's no. So why are you doing it? They do it because it's easy. Oh, I can delete this. This is spam and clean it up. It's kind of like adjusting the font on your website. It's really not needle moving. You're not going to get a bunch more visits to your website because you changed the font size, but it's easy work. It's busy work, but it's not truly getting us to where we want to go. And when people get down that zombie road that you talk about, they get to the end of the day and they're like, wow, I worked today, but what did I accomplish? Because they didn't set their intentions. And we can certainly talk about that in a few minutes about how it's so important to setting your intentions at the beginning of the day. What do you really want to do? And when you're ready, I'd be happy to talk about that.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I want to just share, sorry, Red, just before you begin, I want to share something that I also think is interesting. And as a professional as you are, it amazes me when people come on here, for example, and we're on video, right? People can see us and they're on their phone. And I'm thinking, you signed up for an interview, but you are on your phone. So
well, it's interesting. The only time I do that is like I have I have two podcasts. And one podcast I have with my cousins called Two Bald Nerds, and we're just a bunch of nerds talking about nerdy stuff. And so we're doing the show. We'll actually pick up our phones if we want to get some real-time information. I've had guests on the Mark Struczewski podcast do that as well. They're like, well, let me find the answer right now because I'm kind of weird when it comes to podcasting. I do an interview on Monday and release it on Tuesday. And so I want the information to be as up to date. So as they're searching for it, I just cut that out and we just go right to the answer. But yeah, you're 100% right. If I'm talking to someone, they pull out their phone, I will do one of three things. I will either stop talking to them and wait, which is rare. I will walk away, or sometimes I'll start talking foolishness, like I'm going to go kill your children and cut them up and mail them. And they're like, yeah, great. Because they're not listening to me. They're not listening to what I'm saying. And I'm like, that's rude. I'm right in front of you. But it applies if you're on a Zoom call or a phone call. You should be focused with that person that's you're talking to, whether it's in front of you or whatever, because I think it's rude when you pick up your phone. That can wait. The internet can wait. Social media can wait. This person in front of you should be the most important thing you're dealing with, unless you have an emergency, and that's an exception.
Yeah, I agree. We had this week already, 2 people actually took phone calls while they were being interviewed. So
Well, they
I
can't.
can't
My
talk right
phone
now.
is. I have this on iOS 15 on the iPhone. They've got this thing called Focus, and I have because Do Not Disturb kind of like locks everything down. I put on stay. Put it on. I had something called Stay Going Live. That's what it is. I think what it was, and it blocks my favorites from calling, text messages, everything. So nobody can call me right now, and if they wanted to, because right now the most important thing is to be here for you, your viewers, and your future listeners. This is the most important thing. So I don't want to be distracted.
Yeah, I love that. I applaud you for that. Thank you.
Have you thought about speaking in Polish to anyone? Yeah, dzień dobry, jak się masz?
I can say one thing in Polish, that's JACALYN. That means I love you, because my aunt told me that. That's the only thing I learned in Polish. But I don't think it'd be appropriate to go online and tell everybody JACALYN, because that would not be appropriate. I won't do that.
Okay, it might be an option to killing your kids. I'm just thinking out loud.
Oh, there. Okay.
Gosh.
I'll ask Duolingo about that.
Mr. Productivity, the question that I have for you is, regardless of what we're doing, whether we are entrepreneurs, we're in the corporate world, it doesn't matter. We get overwhelmed and we don't know exactly what to do. We become emotional about it. We take it out on somebody else. We go, hey, here's my mess. Let me throw it at you because I'm in a bad mood, because I'm overwhelmed. I'm burnt out. And I know that you have ways that people can conquer overwhelm. Can you share more about that with us?
It's a great question. It's really interesting that one day I realized that I've never had a single client come to me and say, Mark, I am so overwhelmed. No, I'm sorry. They never came to me and said, I want to be more productive. Help me manage my calendar. How do I use my to-do list? What they were saying is, I'm so overwhelmed. My to-do list, my calendar, ay. And I'm like, isn't that interesting? So I'm a productivity coach, but I created this guide called 10 Quick Ways to Conquer Overwhelm. It's at overwhelmsucks.com. And I had to make it 10 quick ways because, as you both know, when you're overwhelmed, the last thing you want to do is read a 300-page report. You want to get the tips and you want to move forward. So the number one tip I give people, which goes counterintuitive to our world that we're going to go, is stop. Literally stop. Stop emotionally, stop physically, stop what you're doing. Because if the train is starting to come off the track and you keep barreling ahead, well, you're not going to get back on the track. You're going to have a horrific crash. And so I tell people the first thing you have to do is stop. And we don't like to stop in this day and age because the world's running 24/7, 365. We want to keep on going. I'm like, no, you need to stop. And when I tell them that, I get that look when you make a high-pitched sound to a dog. They kind of like, stop, like don't do anything. Yeah, let your brain catch up. Let your brain take a proverbial deep breath. And that is so hard for people to accept, because I'm telling them to not do anything. And they're like, what does that have to do with being productive? I'm like, it has everything to do with being productive, because if you are going off the rails, well, your productivity is going off the cliff with the train.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great tip for people. I really appreciate that. Are people able to follow through and do that, or do they have a million excuses why they can't?
I have heard so many excuses when it comes like, I can't do that. I had one person that was very stressed out, and I told them, hey, what you need to do when you get stressed out, when you get overwhelmed, I want you to stop. I want you to get up. And I want you to go outside, maybe walk around the block, take your dog for a walk. And they said to me, you understand, Mark, the project I'm working on, I can see the finish line. I'm almost there. And you're telling me to stop and take a break. I'm like, do you want to crawl across the finish line, bloody, broken arms and legs and road rash? Or do you want to sail across the finish line? And they're like, all right, it's not going to work. Of course, what do I know? It's not going to work. I'll go try it. And they go try it. 5-minute break. They come back and they sail across the finish line. And like, I can't believe it was just a 5-minute break that did it. I'm like, because when you get overwhelmed, the only way to deal with that is to stop, get away from the situation, go out and take a walk, allow your brain to go, and then everything makes sense. And I'm sure both of you can relate to that. When you can't push a rope. When you try to push a rope, you try to go faster. What happens is the problem gets worse and worse and worse. So stop, go take a break, get away from electronics. I promise you, a mere 5-minute break will give you renewed energy and you'll sail across that finish line.
Yeah, I usually tell people, take a deep breath and hold it for 30 minutes. There's a bit of a joke in there, but the thing is, you do take that deep breath, you do relax a little bit, that stress does drain off a little bit, you do have a little bit more focus than you did 30 seconds ago, because you've disconnected yourself from that immediate issue that you were looking at. So it makes all the sense in the world, whether it's 5 minutes, 30 seconds, 15 minutes. I love to take a 7-8 minute nap in the afternoon. Some rare days I'll take 2, but about 3 days a week, 4 days a week, I just think I need something. But then occasionally I don't want to take a nap, but I want that break. And I have 3 or 4 books I'm reading at any one point in time. And I find out just sitting down reading a chapter in a book just gets my mind off everything. And that's really the objection. That's really the objective that I'm looking for, is to get my mind off so that when I come back to it, it's fresher. Is that a fair way of looking at it?
Yeah, and I also think, I mean, it's a great idea what you're saying, but I think you need to physically move. We're stuck behind these computer screens on Zoom calls and StreamYard and podcast interviews. We need to get up and physically move. So one of the things I like to do, I live in Houston like you do, Red, and I like to go out. Matter of fact, right before this interview, I was outside in my shorts, getting vitamin D, reading a print book. I'm 57 years young, and I read print books. And I was out there in the fresh air with my dog and just relaxing, but I had to physically walk out to outside to where I read. And when you start walking, your legs feel kind of weird because you've been sitting down for so long. Your legs, like, what is this sensation in my leg? That's the blood moving. And I really encourage people, we need to move way more than we're moving. And I wear an Apple Watch, and it's got a reminder on there every hour. It wants you to stand and walk around for 1 minute. We are getting so used to sitting behind these computers. I'm really afraid that someday we're going to wake up and have no legs, because God's going to say, hey, well, you're not using the legs. I'll just take them away and give them to somebody else. It's not going to happen, but I'm just saying that's almost what it feels like in our society today.
Mark, I just want to share with you that I stand for all my shows. Woo!
Awesome. Awesome. Good for you.
But I have to take a break because of my eyes, because there's so many screens and the light coming in. And I told Red I was really worried because I was seeing floaters. And anyway, I realized that I was addicted to being in front of this computer and doing this work. So now when my shows are over, I turn everything off and I go out for a walk. I get away from, I have to, because it's just not healthy. And my mind's so filled. And when I'm out in nature, I'm like, oh, wow, there's a whole world out here that's not a computer screen.
Yeah,
Mark,
it's amazing.
Mark, how did you adopt the title of Mr. Productivity? I mean, you said people can Google Mr. Productivity and find you. That's an easy way rather than trying your last name. But why? Tell us about how you adopted that name.
Someone gave it to me on LinkedIn. They one day they said, you're like Mr. Productivity, and so they used the hashtag Mr. Productivity, and I said, can I use that? Can I steal that? They go, yeah, go ahead. So because I have a name like Mark Struczewski, no one's going to find my website unless you are from Poland. So I got MrProductivity.com as a redirect. So when I'm on podcasts such as yours, I can say, go to MrProductivity.com, which takes you to MarkStruczewski.com. Someday I hope to be so famous, Red, that people will know how to spell my last name and I won't have to use the redirect anymore. But it was actually given to me by somebody else. And I'm so thankful for that person. I always give them credit. And they go, look, it's been several years. You don't have to talk about it anymore. I'm like, yeah, but had it not been for you, I wouldn't be Mr. Productivity. So I always make it a point to thank him. And I really appreciate him giving that moniker.
I think when we were speaking, I think it was a Chamber of Commerce event or something like that, we were speaking on the same stage. I don't think you had that moniker at that time. So this was probably 3 years before COVID. I think is the last time we shared a stage together. So it's been since then, but everything I ever see literally on social media and anywhere, you're always Mr. Productivity. And so I know it's occurred recently, and it fits you very aptly too.
Well, thank you. I was going by the bald productivity expert, but that didn't really click. But Mr. Productivity, it's like, I'm thinking about getting t-shirts and the whole 9 yards. It's a good branding play, but I always have to spell it out in my podcast. You have to spell out Mr. because I don't know where you'd go if you went to mrproductivity.com. So don't go there. I haven't checked in a while. So it's Mr. all spelled out. But then I went out, I mentioned earlier that most people come to me, they have struggles with overwhelm. So I got the domain overwhelmsucks.com. That took about a half an hour to get that from GoDaddy because I wanted to get something that was catchy. And the first 6 or 7 I came up with, I don't even remember what they are anymore. They were already taken, or you had to pay a fee to get them. And that usually means they're in, 4 or 5 digits. And then my wife said, well, how about overwhelmsucks.com? And I tried it and came up, and every time I say that to someone, they get the smile on their face because overwhelm does suck.
Yeah, it's so true. I know there are other places where I get held up that I think to myself, I need a productivity coach. I need somebody to help me figure it out. For example, a filing system on your computer, like creating those little files and then dropping things in there. I don't know why this is so elusive to me because I have files, but there's so much in there. I have to start. It just goes on and on and on. So what are some other areas that people can really get overwhelmed with that you can assist them?
Well, a big thing is the to-do list. People are doing half of what I say. Capture those thoughts. So if an idea comes to your head and you're like, oh, I got to do this, I got to call this person, they're doing the right things by capturing that idea. The problem is a lot of people's to-do list is like the Dead Sea. A lot of stuff stuff flows into it. Nothing flows out. So it's a Dead Sea. Nothing lives there. And a lot of people's to-do lists get larger and larger and larger. And because they're putting things in there, but they're not doing anything. And so I tell people, while you should be capturing everything that you need to do, here's an advanced tip. If you have an idea and you're like, okay, I need to call Red. Well, maybe that doesn't go on your to-do list. Maybe you actually put that on your calendar because what gets scheduled gets done instead of putting it on your to-do list and you just keep snoozing it over and over and over and over again. So I encourage people, if the task is going to take you 5, 10, 15 minutes, go ahead and put that right on your calendar instead of a to-do list. And a to-do list should be a training ground. So you could put things on there repetitively until you get used to doing them. Now, I put when my bills are going to come out, so I know, hey, this XYZ bill is coming out tomorrow. But I'm really, really picky about what goes on my to-do list because I know from experience, the more things on a to-do list, I don't care what app you use, I don't care how organized you are, it's going to cause overwhelm. And you're going to start saying, oh, I'll do that tomorrow. And all of a sudden, the 8 things you had today become 16 tomorrow. Then they become 150. And then you just say, I'll just delete that app and start over, which is not fixing the problem. You're the problem, and you got to fix the problem. So to-do lists are really a big problem with my clients.
Well, before we go on any further with our to-do list, why don't we go ahead and do a commercial break here real quick before we get overwhelmed by our time?
Nice.
What are you doing? Stand up, Red? I love it. Okay, here we are. We're going to take a break and hear from some of our sponsors, and we'll be right back on The Wise Ones.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Story Garden. Your host, Diane Boehm. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Diane Floyd Boehm tells wonderful stories that warm the heart, spark the imagination, and unite people and families across generations. For children, Diane's Harry the Camel connects with all of us who've ever wondered how different our lives might have been if only we'd been born something better, like a wonderful horse instead of an ordinary camel. In the end, we all learn along with Harry that there's nothing better than just being yourself. Diane's Little Girl in the Moon looks down on earthbound children and wonders if they know she's just like them. A story of love, home, and the bond between mother and daughter, its powerful theme that we're each of us different yet all of us the same plants a seed in children that promises to blossom within a loving and trusting grown-up. Diane's new biography, Rise, recounts the experiences of her grandmother, Ruby, to reveal the hidden strength of the human spirit. Ruby's story inspires all of us to become the best versions of ourselves. You'll find all of Diane's delightful books and much more at dianefloydbame.com. Visit dianefloydboehm.com. That's dianefloydbame.com.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
doing certain things, scheduling them on our calendars, and then other things go on the list, because when we put on our calendar, we're more likely to actually do it. Where are some other areas where we get tripped up? I mean, I could give you so many of what I get tripped on, but what have you found, Mr. Productivity?
Well, I've got the saying that complexity leads to procrastination. Complexity leads to procrastination. So keep things as simple as you possibly can. That's one point. The other point is make sure you're not overextending yourself. It breaks my heart when I meet people on social media or what have you, and they say, oh yeah, I'm a coach and I coach from 8 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock at night. I'm like, why? And they're like, well, because that's what brings the money in. I'm like, you need to figure out how many clients you can have per day And I like spacing. So I will not do back-to-back clients. I always have, like, if I have a client at 9 o'clock and all my sessions are 45 minutes, I won't do another one till 11. That works for me because I want to have that space. I won't do back-to-back podcast interviews or any kind of interviews because I need to have that space. And I tell people, if you're not giving yourself space, if you are literally working from the time you wake up until the time you go to bed, you are going to be running on empty by the end of the day. You may not feel it, but spiritually and emotionally, you're running on empty. So I encourage everybody, whether you're an entrepreneur or whatever, figure out how much can you do a day. So this is an easy exercise I always tell people in my keynotes. When you're planning your tomorrow, and you should always plan your tomorrow, tell your time where to go instead of wondering where it went. You sit there and you go, okay, I'm going to work 9 hours tomorrow. I'm going to take an hour for lunch. So 9 minus 1 is 8 hours. And you already have 4 hours already planned on your schedule. So now you're down to 4 hours. Okay, so what else are you going to put on your calendar? And a lot of people, they don't know. And I'm like, if you don't tell your time where to go, you're going to spend time on social media, or you're going to spend time doing household chores if you work from home, or you're going to spend time watching TV. You're going to do something that's not going to move you towards your goals. And so I encourage people, make sure you're planning your time, but also don't overextend yourself because you're one person. I don't care if you're 27 or 57. Your body needs a break between activities. I don't even believe a lot of high performance individuals go from task to task to task to task, and there's no drop in efficiency or productivity, because that's not the way our brains and our bodies are designed. We need to take a break. So for me, I always tell my clients, make sure you're allowing yourself breaks. And if you do a really high energy task, takes a lot of brain power, maybe the next thing should be something simple so your brain can like take a breath while you're doing this other task.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I just have one follow-up in regards to that. So I could really use your help, Mr. Productivity, while we're live here. And I just put it out there about something that I struggle with. So every show is 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then the guest and the co-host are to meet me 10 minutes before the hour for the next show. So I have a 10-minute window that I give myself to go do whatever it is I need to do. But invariably, the shows don't end on time, no matter how many times I say, well, we're going to wrap it. And then all day long, I'm like, I really could use the bathroom. I'd love to get a glass of water, but I can't. And I don't know what to do about it because there are other people involved. I can't control other people. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'll tell you what I would do in your situation. How many interviews do you do a day?
It depends, 7, 8, or 9.
I would do 3 or 4.
But they're all scheduled for the rest of the year.
Well, what you do is starting January, you cut your schedule back. Like I was doing for most of 2021, I was doing an interview every day on my podcast. And the problem is when someone canceled, it caused me a lot of overwhelm because, oh no, I said every day. And so I had to create a topic. Creating the interview is not the problem. Creating the episode is not the problem. Creating the topic is the problem because I got to do it on the fly. But then I said, okay, I'm not doing anymore. I was doing 7 interviews a week. Then I went to 5 interviews a week. And now I am going from 3 to 1. I'm doing 1 interview a week. And I'm going to do solo episodes for the other 2 episodes a week because I want to talk directly to my listeners. I would encourage you, if you can, if you have the control, I would say starting January 1st, we're only going to do 2 or 3 interviews a day, and I'm only going to do 4 days a week. I've known that works for some people. Some people fight me on it, like, oh, you do you. But if you're having trouble getting up and resetting, like for me, when I'm done here, I don't have anything else to do the rest of the day in terms of coaching clients or interviews. I can, do personal development. I can prospect. I can work on my next podcast episode, whatever I want to do. And that's why I'm so productive, because I allow myself, I won't overtax myself during the day. So I would give serious consideration to, if you're working with Red or whoever, just say, listen, I want to pull back starting January 1st, how many interviews we're going to do a day. I only want to do 3 a day, and I want them scattered like 8 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and 3 o'clock or something like that. So you have breaks. And that way, if the interview runs late, your first interview runs late, now you don't have another one at the top of the hour. Now you can like, okay, I was going to do it that hour. I was going to walk my dog, or I was going to make some phone calls. Now you don't have to rush. And so that's would be my encouragement to you. If you're my client, I would say, take away some of these and see how it works. You can always add them back. You can always add them back. But if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling stressed, I would pull back. I certainly did. And the world's not going to end because you do.
The only thing is we're a network, so we need to have shows. Like if you were to turn on NBC, you know how they have a show every hour. So I appreciate that. I think what I'm thinking of doing is producing more shows as opposed to being on the show. I'll be back behind the. You won't see me. I'll be in the back.
I think because we're never going to get younger, we're always going to get older. We need to take our mental health and our physical health into consideration. And I know some people, they look at me like, you're 57? You look like you're 40 because I take care of myself. I do not allow myself to be stressed. I mean, I do get stressed from time to time. I'm not living in a Pollyanna world. Sometimes I do get stressed, but I have some non-negotiables in my life. As Red may know, I run every day, and accidentally I started running 5Ks every day now. I don't know what happened. I'm losing my mind, but I do it every day. And it doesn't matter if Oprah came to my house and woke me out of bed and said, hey, you could do an interview on my podcast. You can interview me on your podcast right now. I'm like, oh, no, I got a morning routine I have to do. You're just going to have to wait. And that's a priority. And so if you're feeling stressed, I think you need to figure out a way where you can pull back a little bit, maybe let someone else do some other things, because you need to be able to have this break. I'm looking at now we're 37 minutes past the hour. And now I got him back in my mind because I'm the kind of speaker. And this is one thing that really annoys me, that people, they have a keynote and their keynote is 75 minutes long, for example, and they go on stage 15 minutes late. Well, how long should your keynote should be? 60 minutes, 75? I say 45. Because if you get the meeting planner back on schedule, they're going to love you. And especially if you're speaking right before lunch, the people in the audience are going to love you. So I will always, now that you told me you want to wrap this up soon, I'm going to shut my mouth because I want you to be able to take that break. I'm serious, Dr. Jacalyn. I'm dead serious. I think it's really important. And you'll thank me maybe tomorrow or later on tonight.
Well, thank you, Mr. Productivity. I really appreciate that.
Well, Mark, I got one last question for you before we do conclude today. Obviously, you've been working with some clients over time. Oh, by the way, I do remember when you started out running 1 mile a day every day. It wasn't that long ago. So
August 29, 2017, sir, over 5 years ago.
Wow.
So congratulations on the 5K. I think the most I ever do is 6 to 8 miles a day, every day for 30 days. But that was a long time ago on a different body. Regardless, with the clients you've had, give us one really good success story that is not overwhelming for somebody saying, hey, well, if it worked for that person, why can't it work for me? And it doesn't have to be unusual, but something that you can get, boom, this works and this proves it.
No, I didn't even think about this. I have a client who found me on a webinar. I was doing a webinar. They signed up for it. And at their job, they were working from sunrise to sunset. Plus, they had this special needs adult sister they had to take care of. Plus, they had this side hustle they were trying to go and build. So they came to me, and I was able to untangle their headphones. So I'm wearing Apple earpods here, and these always get magically tangled. They're just built that way. And what happened was, once I did that, she now works 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then she has time to take care of her sister and has some time to do her side hustle, and she has time to learn. She's going for some exams, and she has time for that because I was able to come in there. I'm outside her situation. I was able to see, well, why don't we do this and move this and ship this over here? And she did it, and she raves about me. And one of the things that frustrates her more than anything else is people are like, man, I can't believe how much you changed. And she tells them these people all about me, and then they go, oh, that's a lot of money. I'm like, well, she knows these people are telling this to her. And like, I know how much you go out to eat every weekend. You spend $300-$400 going out to eat, and this is not that expensive. So where's your priorities at? So she's my champion. She's my super fan. And she told me I have changed her life, and we become really good friends.
Well, fantastic.
That's a great story. Thank you. And congratulations.
Thank you.
And keeping up with your aim to conclude on the right time, how can people reach you, and what can you do for them? What value can you add? And I'll let you kind of wrap up your side right there.
Best thing to do, go to overwhelmsucks.com, overwhelmsucks.com. You'll be taken to a page on my website where you get my free guide, 10 quick ways to conquer overwhelm. Name an email address, just sign up, You will get the guide. I don't want you just to get the guide. Don't want you just to read the guide. I want you to implement it. The guide works, but you have to do the work. There's no magic just getting the guide. It doesn't matter to me if you sign up for it or not, but get it, implement it, and I promise you it will change your life. If it doesn't, let me know and I'll give you your money back. The guide's free, by the way, so I'll give you double your money back.
No questions asked.
Not bad. Double money back is not a bad deal.
Thank you for having me on the show. It was an absolute delight having you here, and I hope Dr. Jacalyn gets a break before her next interview.
And there's also opportunities on the USA Global TV and Radio Network for you to appear other places, because we do have more than just this one show.
29 shows a week. So we'll be sending you a survey, and we'd love to have you come back and join us again.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Take care, Mark.
Bye, Mr. Productivity. He was great. Thank you for bringing it to the platform.
Thank you. And I have myself to wrap up here pretty quickly. So for those people who need me, red.olaughlin.com. That's R-E-D, like the color red, O'Laughlin, O-L-A-U-G-H-L-I-N, red.olaughlin.com. All my contact information's there. And I'll be up here literally in about 15 minutes on Talking Heads, and we're going to be talking about post-pandemic health, how you can plan for it, how you can get better after everything's over. And we're going to go into just getting started today. We went into the 30,000-foot overview. Today we're going to get started on various areas, and then next week or so we're going to dive a little deeper. But join me if you can. If not, please go to YouTube for the USA Global TV and Radio Network, and you can catch our past episodes. So Dr. Jacalyn, I'm going to turn it back to you, and I'm going to head on over to the other studio and get things set up and be ready to rock and roll here very quickly. So take care.
All right, Red, I'll see you over there soon. Thank you. Bye. And once again, thank you to each and every one of you, whether you're watching or you're listening, whether it's live or on the replay. I truly do appreciate you. Our growth has been exponential, and it's all because of you. If you'd like to be a guest on any of our shows, please go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com, book your session. We have a special event coming up on Sunday. It's our reunion show. And if you watch the business show, you'll know that Mr. Alcini, he's my co-host. He's joining me for our live streaming event. This event is not an interview. This is where you have an opportunity to promote yourself, your brand, your business, your book, your film, whatever it is that you have, your event, your charity. You get your 15 minutes of spotlight on our program, and then you get to hang around for that hour and meet the other people who are also presenting. So we'll be live streaming starting at 10 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday, the 18th. And I do have a graphic here that I hopefully can find very quickly and show you. Here it is. It's the reunion show. Just go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com, and you can book in. I think we have space for 2 more people. All right, I'm going to head off and produce the next show and quickly get a break for myself for a few minutes. Thank you, Mr. Productivity, for sharing that wisdom with me. And we'll be back soon. Thank you again. Bye.